So in this video, I wanted to talk about something that isn't spoiler related. That is something that I see in the comment sections of my videos quite often, and more so recently, just sort of people unhappy with DanMachi as a series, not from like a anime versus light novel perspective, but more just a story overall. So this isn't my opinion, this is merely looking at other people's opinions and discussing about it, because that's one of the things that I really love doing on the channel, is looking at comments, reading them, and discussing about some of the more interesting comments out there and having a back and forth conversation. Review the viewers as well, because it adds a sense of interaction. You can leave a comment and I may do a video discussing about that particular discussion point. And it comes down to the whole point of there being no stakes. Now, I don't think that is an issue. I can understand the perspective of why some people feel that there is no stakes when it comes to, for example, like the danger of an opponent. So right now in the story of the anime, there is a big, prevalent, big issue going on and their lives are at stake. But the issue is that it doesn't feel like their lives are at stake, because some anime fans are saying, well, we know they're going to survive, so what is the point? It's obvious they're going to get through it. And it's like, well, yeah, it's obvious. Bell's going to survive this. He'll come out of this bigger, stronger, better. If you think that's a spoiler, you clearly don't know where the story is going to go. Clearly, Bell's going to be the hero of the story, and we're all going to be like, oh my god, he's the best. But that's the thing. Most stories are like that, where the main protagonist is going through a journey, and it's more about the journey than him going through this situation where you think they might die. Of course, you know they're not going to die. You know they're going to get through it. But it's about how they get through it, the challenges that they have, and how they overcome those challenges that I think are more important on a story. And if you do that well, then I think that overshadows the issue of it feeling like there are no stakes. I feel like if you want a show that's about really the chance of someone dying, like a main character possibly dying, then I would say Game of Thrones. But even then, Game of Thrones ran into that problem, because after a while, you kind of knew who the main characters were of Game of Thrones. You kind of worked out very quickly, okay, these are probably the people that are going to die, and these are the people that are going to survive. And occasionally, you might get like one of the big major characters that were there at the start might die. But most of the time, you could pretty much pick, okay, they're the ones that are going to survive till the end of the story, and then maybe something might happen to them. And that's just because they are the star of the show. They are what draws you in, and it's more about the journey and how things end than sitting there thinking, I wonder if Bell's going to die in this episode. You sit there and you think, oh no, he's going to survive. Of course he's going to survive. He's the hero. He's the main protagonist. The story is about him. And it's not just Bell, of course. Some people will bring up other characters like the other familiar members, Hestia, and all that. And I've spoken in a previous video about Freya. So if you want to see some spoilers about Freya and what's going on with her and her relationship with Bell, definitely check that video out. But as I've said in that video, I think Freya's fate's pretty slam dunk as well. We kind of know where that's going. And that's just because it's not that the story's super easily predictable. It's just there are some things that you can kind of tell that there are areas where the author is not going to go and is going to go. And that's not a bad thing, because it clearly shows that you can see the general direction of the story. It's like something that actually the writer for Game of Thrones mentioned in an interview, where he talks about major plot points being hinted at. And when fans can guess it, it's important not to deviate away from that, because if you suddenly go, oh god, this big plot point that I was building up and everyone's guessed it, well, I better change it now, it creates a lot of issues in the story. And because you know Bell is going to be the hero, and clearly his friends are going to come along with that journey, suddenly throwing one of them under the bus and killing them off or something, or changing something major with the story to try and really spin it up, is just going to create contradictions in the story. So I feel like it's important that the author outlines what he clearly plans and stick to it, even if people can kind of guess obvious things that are going to happen. Because if you start changing things just because fans can guess it, you're going to create more issues. Yes, it kind of, sucks a little bit that you can kind of guess some things, but if you're smart enough, you can, or predict enough, you can kind of guess where most things in a story is going to go, just because of the style of the writing, kind of little hints in there. And I think that's just one of the strengths and weaknesses when it comes to storytelling in general, from a light novel, manga, anime, live action, whatever it is. You can kind of predict some of those major plot points that are going to happen, but I think it's more about the journey and the interesting different ways they can do that journey. Just because you go from A to B is exactly the same, like the start and the ending is exactly the same. How you get there, I think, is the thing that needs to be most interesting. And as long as you tell it in a fun, vibrant, it doesn't just have to be fun, it could be serious, sort of nerve-breaking, but at the same time, that's what I do love about DanMachi. It's about the bonds and the friendships and the overcoming individual challenges and how they learn from it, how they grow from it, and how they navigate around it. You know they're going to navigate around it. You know they're going to get around that big roadblock or that big boulder. It's more about how they get around it. Do they hack away at it with some pickaxes? Do they get a drill? Does Bell just miraculously flop his magical dagger out and push, it's gone? Does Hestia just wave her plot devices around and everything mystically disappears? I say some of those just in jest, but you get where I'm going with this. It's more about how they overcome those goals that I think that's more important than this kind of thing of, oh my god, is Bell actually going to die this next episode? No, of course he's not. And if you think that's a spoiler, then you clearly don't know that he's the main protagonist of the story. So I think that's just kind of the thing. And it's the same thing when I talk about the relationship between Bell and Eyes. I've always said those two are going to be together at the end of the story. It was kind of obvious from the first episode or the first season of the anime and the light novels, or first volume for the light novels, that they are going to be together. That is their destiny. It's outlined in concrete evidence. So to suddenly, maybe like randomly, miraculously out of nowhere, Freya wins and, oh, Bell now falls in love with Freya and they live happily ever after, that would be a very bad ending, because it would contradict everything that has been built up right now in the story. So that's what I mean. It is important to be consistent with what you're trying to build. And if people can guess it, it becomes a little bit predictable. Yes, it can be a little bit annoying, but I don't think that's necessarily an inherently super bad thing, as long as it is fun and interesting along the way. You can know how the roller coaster is going to go, but as long as you're having fun on it, that is all that matters to me. So I'd love to ask the question off to you. What do you think of that? Again, some of these are my opinions, some of these are more discussion points, looking at different perspectives, and that's what I like doing. I love grabbing what some people think and kind of throwing them against the wall, taking different perspectives and playing devil's advocate and pretending I'm on one perspective. But I do believe that it's obvious that Bell's going to survive. He's the hero. And I don't think that's inherently a bad thing. And I think it's more about the destination that is most important. But there are some parts in there that, yeah, I can definitely understand from different perspectives. So I'd love to ask the question off to you. What do you think of that? Are you enjoying the new season of DanMachi? Are you been reading the light novels, the mangas? Mainly, of course, I read the light novels because the light novels are much further ahead than the mangas. And I'll be definitely covering more of the light novel stuff releasing in Japan over the coming weeks and months, and other stuff that came out last year as well. So definitely have that to look forward to. Again, if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe for more anime content, and I'll see you beautiful nerds in the next video.